she is the type of person that will demand the best out of you, will always force you to...
It's my turn.
Okay, ma'am.
Hey, good morning. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it. I served in Gulfport a couple of times. I was in Hueneme too with various battalions. But Gulfport has a real special place in my heart. I really think that for those of you who have never maybe been to Hueneme, you'll find that it's a great place. It's a great place to be a Seabee and a sailor, but it's not the same as Gulfport. So to be back here today is very special to me, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate kind of Sir Donato and Lieutenant White, all the coordination you did to help me out. Thanks very much. And Skipper, thank you. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I was asked to come and speak today about two things. One is about leadership, and the other is a little bit about being retired. And talking to an audience like you about leadership is pretty daunting, frankly, because you know a lot about leadership already. You get it through all the classes you've been to, and so to come up here and talk about communications or discipline or that kind of stuff, I don't think it's going to be helpful to you. You know it already. You do it probably in your daily lives. So what I thought I'd like to do just briefly this morning is tell you a couple stories that I experienced in my career that taught me a lot about leadership and might be interesting to you. The first story I'll tell you is when I was I think it was a JG. I was in NCBC out in California. This is how old I am. This is back in the late 80s. Some of you probably weren't born then. Anyway, back in the olden days, I was in NCBC1, and and I was going to be a det OIC. And the deal was this: we were about an 80-person det. We had NMCB1 Seabees, we had UCT Seabees, we had Army divers, and then we had some civilian experts out of XWIC. We're going to all get together in this det. We're going to load out our stuff and hop on board an LST, an old Navy ship, take it down to Honduras. Then we're going to get off the ship. The ship was going to go away for 30 days. We were going to build our thing, and then they were going to come back and take us home. And just about everything that could go wrong in that det went wrong. Starting from, we went to load out the ship. I assumed the ship knew how to load out our stuff. We had about a mile of 8-inch steel pipe, and we had 2 D8s, and we had some, just a ton of equipment. And so I thought, well, this is a ship. This is what they do. They'll know how to do this. They thought, well, you're Seabees. You know how to do this. And so I didn't really plan how to load out that ship. So that ate up a ton of time. When we did finally get ready to load up the ship, it was January. It was during an El Nino year, just kind of like it is right now in California. Terrible storms. We had all of our pipes stacked up on a pontoon. A storm came. We had secured operations for the day because we were loaded by cranes. We secured operations, and the pipe was all chained down onto this barge. The barge rocked back and forth so much that the chain broke, and the pipe all ended up in the bottom of the day. It was the only pipe we had. So we had to get a floating 250-ton crane, salvage all that out. Expensive, and took up a ton of time, which we did not have. Finally, we got the ship loaded out. We headed down to Honduras, had lots of storms along the way, and had to send troops out to make sure that dozers were secure and stuff, probably putting them at risk, frankly. I know we put them at risk. We got down to Honduras. The ship kicked us off as soon as they could. They were pretty tired of us. The ship left, and this is back in the 80s. We didn't have, of course, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have any real kind of communication. We had a sat phone. We were told only use it if it's a medical emergency. And it didn't work very well anyway. You guys know how comms go. So then we got started to do our project. Our project was a mooring system that a ship could come and tie up to. So we had anchors and anchor chain. That's why the divers were there. And then this 8-inch steel pipe to go to the shore. And then we're supposed to build like a fuel farm. And then the problem was that the bottom survey that we'd gotten from the engineers said that we'd have a sandy bottom, and instead we had a muddy bottom. And if you know anything about anchors, you know you need particular anchors for particular soil types. So we had the wrong anchors. So we had to, figure out what we're going to do. So everything went wrong. And of course, when these kinds of things happen, when a project starts to go bad, the morale went bad. So we had good order and discipline problems. We were eating those old MREs. We thought we were going to get fresh fruit and vegetable supplements. We couldn't get those. Everything went wrong. I think about that. It ended up fine. It ended up fine. We figured out what to do. We got the thing built. The ship came back. We got back on the ship and went home. But not because I was a good leader. In fact, it's amazing to me every time I think back on that, and I think about it a lot, how badly I performed as the leader, and how poorly I served the And you all know, nobody gets on a debt, nobody starts a deployment wanting to fail. Nobody starts anything pretty much in life wanting to fail. And so when you have the privilege, I think, of being a leader, you really owe it to your people to make sure that it goes well. And it doesn't go well in spite of you, it goes well because of you. And so as I've thought about that debt so many times, there's some things that I really have come to believe strongly in life, and this is what I take when I look at the job. First, I think, and you guys know this better than I do, just because you're the leader, the squad leader, the battalion CO, the chief of civil engineers, whatever, just because you're person in charge doesn't make you a leader. It does not make you a leader. And in fact, on that debt, I would argue that we had petty officers and civilians who solved those problems and were far better leaders than I ever was. And so, of course, you know that. You get taught that every day. But I think the thing to remember is that if you're in a leadership position, you got to lead every single day. Because if you don't, somebody's going to do it for you. And they may not do it the way you want it. And in fact, when good order and discipline goes to hell, it's because bad leaders are influencing your people. You know, you can only lead people who want to be led by you. And if you're not inspiring those people, they will go find another leader, good, bad, or indifferent. So I think about that a lot. I think about great leaders who appear to be doing nothing, but you think, that leader's not out there shaking it up, but the world's going pretty well. Think about President Eisenhower, who was a leader that I think led our nation pretty well, very quietly. So I don't think a big leader needs crisis, but you do need to lead in whatever format is needed. I also think, and I think about this every day, and probably the skipper can probably attest to this, I plan for things to go wrong, all right? I think that it's great to have a wonderful plan A, but I'll take 2 pretty doggone good plan Bs instead. Because no matter what you do, probably it's not going to go the way you planned. And if you are not prepared for failure, you're not going to help your people very well. And in developing those alternative plans, you generally strengthen your first plan anyway. But I think always expecting things to go wrong, hoping for the best but planning for the worst, is probably the single best advice that I could give anybody. I would also say that, especially with the Seabee community, people will solve problems. They'll solve every problem you got if you just create the environment and get out of their way. And that's what happened in Honduras. I had some very good people who jumped in and said, we got to get this damn thing done, and they did. Not because of me, but because we had an environment that was created that enabled them to kind of succeed and get on with it. Last thing I would say that I learned from that experience is that in bad times, you really understand and learn the character of a person. All right, you know, a lot of people always want to select their team and have those people where everything always goes great. That person always aces it, everything's good in that person's career, and the person's never made a mistake. Those are not the people I want for my team. Those are not the people I wanted for my Master Chiefs. I wanted Master Chiefs, I wanted senior leaders, I wanted company commanders, I wanted senior petty officers who had made mistakes and learned from them, and who had been through tough times and prevailed. And so, as you're picking your teams, and as you're looking for who are the go-to folks on my group, I would say look hard at those folks who have been through some bad times, because probably they've learned from those bad times. And if your life is always great and you never have trouble, you're probably not going to learn as much. The second story I would tell you was when I was more senior, and I was in an organization. It was a flat organization. We were all peers, and we had a boss, and we did not like our boss. We didn't. In retrospect, he was a fine person. He was a smart guy, and he was doing the best he could. But for whatever reason, all of us, we were all a bunch of kind of mid-grade officers, we didn't like him. And so we didn't help him. We didn't hurt him. You know, we never lied to him, and we didn't do anything bad. And we didn't help him. We didn't go out of our way, as you will for a good boss that you love and inspires you. We didn't do that extra little bit to help that person out. We did the minimum we needed to. Our organization did okay, but again, it was kind of in spite of us, not because of us, I think. And I am so ashamed of my performance during that time. I wasn't in a leadership position, but I should have led myself better. I really didn't help my Navy. I didn't help my organization. And I really didn't make myself out to be the kind of leader I wanted to be. And in retrospect, I can't ever change that. That is, that's a fact that during that period of time, I acted reasonably immaturely for a person of my rank, and I regret it. And what I've learned about that is, I think, for me at least, leading myself is as important as leading others. And if you can't lead yourself, you probably don't deserve to lead others. And so I say that to you because if you haven't already, you will encounter probably some bosses that you are not impressed with. That's life. But how you lead yourself and how you lead your boss and how you influence your boss, which we probably could have done if we had approached it differently, I think would have been a different outcome. So those are some leadership thoughts that I would share with you. Let me switch now just very briefly to talk about retirement. Retirement is great. I retired in November, officially on 1 December, and I'm living in Iowa now. And I, like maybe many of you, thought that I would retire and just be really missing the Navy. And I do. I love the Navy, I love the Seabees, and I think about you and what you do and how you represent our nation all the time. But we all retire, y'all go on to other things, and it's exciting and it's great. And as I've been retired now and talking to companies and being involved in my community and kind of figuring out what options are available to me, there are 3 things that I would share with you that you might want to think about as you pursue your career. First thing I would say is, look for trouble and get involved. You learn, as I've kind of maybe indicated earlier, you learn a lot more when things are bad than when things are good. So if I were you, I would pick all those tough jobs. I would figure out what job do I know the least about, that's the one I want. What location do I know the least about, that's where I want my debt. What job in the battalion or the regiment or whatever, the ship, looks like something I don't know anything about, that's the job I want. Because you are going to develop yourself and you are going to, I think, learn more skills about how to lead in those situations than you will if you know that you are really good at building and you're just going to try to stay in ops and Charlie Company all your career. You will be probably not as well developed and not as marketable if you do that when you get out than if you really pick the most diverse, difficult things that you can. And I think you'll find them more enjoyable. Frankly, the hardest things in life are usually the things that are most enjoyable. Second thing I would say is, I don't know how to put this any other way, but live large. People expect folks coming out of the military to have a broad base of experience. And you don't get that if you just continue to do the same thing all the time. By that I mean, take all the different jobs that you can in all the different places you can. When you have liberty, go do the things you've never done before. Really push the opportunities that the military uniquely offers you to the limit. Because when you get out, you're probably not going to work for an organization that is going to encourage you and give you the options that the military does. Just the stories that I tell people, the routine stories, the sea stories that you and I used to tell each other all the time that just seem so sort of, oh yeah, so whatever. Those are amazing to people in the private sector. And they really look at your experiences, the crazier the better, as things that shape you and your character and define you as a leader and give you the talents and skills that they want to lead their organizations. So take advantage of all the diversity of opportunity and experience that being in the military offers, whether it's one tour or an entire career, because that is what private industry is going to pay you for, whether they know it or not when you get out. The last thing I would say, and this is maybe a little sappy, I guess, is that appreciate the opportunity you have to do the job you do. I thought that I understood what a privilege it was to serve in the military when I was in. But now that I'm out, and I look at really 2 things. One, how highly the nation and the private sector view the military, I didn't realize what an exclusive club I was part of. And they really do put you on a pedestal, unlike every other organization. I go to meeting after meeting and all this stuff now, and when they talk about experience that people have, people can do a lot of great things in life and make $1 bajillion, but when they talk about somebody with military experience, it's an entirely different ballgame. So appreciate that, but also appreciate working in an organization that is credible and has ethics, and that you're surrounded by mostly people who care about you and want to make you better. That is very rare, and in fact, when you get out in the private sector, people are not going to care about helping you unless lot of times they're going to care about hurting you. And that is such a foreign concept, I think, to the ethic and ethos that exists in the military. It makes life harder on the outside. So appreciate what you have now and make that part of your ethos. So that's all I've got this morning, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.